Hey everybody, thank you for joining us on the Fair Compare video podcast number 50. My name is Rick Cini. I'm the co-founder and CEO of FairCompare.com. Here with my partner in crime from California, Ann McDermott. Hey Ann.
Happy 50th. I've got one for you and one for me. Are these showing up right? I got up at 6 o'clock in the morning to draw 50s on 2 moon pies. So I'll mail it to you.
I want to see that, yeah, at least photos anyway. Well, yeah, so, today we're going to talk about a couple different things on the podcast. We've got shopping for Thanksgiving. We also have some secret deal zones.
Cool.
One of the other things too, which is my favorite part of the podcast, and I love the questions, so please keep them coming. We'll take one of the questions from a customer, and we'll also talk about our event of the week, which happens to be in my neck of the woods. And if neck of the woods isn't something you hear very often, I do live in Texas.
Yeah, this is a good one. But first, let's talk about when should I shop for Thanksgiving? Okay, so Rick, when should one shop for Thanksgiving?
Yeah, it's really important that you sort of look at the days. So you got the Wednesday before and the Sunday after, and we've been doing this for a while, right? And we know that the Sunday after is the busiest and the Wednesday before is the second busiest day of the year. Not consequently the most expensive. So when you have most expensive days like that, you're going to want to shop fairly quickly. Now, the best itinerary we've always told people, and it's the same this year, is if you leave on the day of Thanksgiving in the morning, hopefully your flight's under 2 hours, you'll be able to get the family and football and friends while you're there. So, but if not, it's sort of Tuesday, Saturday is a great one. Tuesday, Monday. Can be a little bit worse, and then Tuesday all the way to the next Tuesday, it's staying an entire week. But if you have to go on a Wednesday or Sunday, at least make the other one not Wednesday and Sunday, so you'll get half the benefit of that.
So anyway, in other words, you're saying you should shop right now. I mean, it's the end of August.
For me, it's a simple rule of thumb. We're sitting here at the tail end of August. Start adding about $1 each day for the next few weeks to your virtual airline ticket. And then as you hit sort of mid-September to late September, start adding about $2. As you get into October and later in October, start adding $4 a day. Now, if you add all that up, that's going to be $100 to $120. If you procrastinate all the way to the end of October, that is not a good idea. It's going to be a busy season. The seasons around it, we're going to talk about in a few minutes, are going to be not so busy with some good deals. But that particular set of days is one where you don't want to procrastinate.
Well, we always used to hear about, super steals, these last-minute Thanksgiving deals. No?
Yeah, historically, what we used to, and you and I used to euphemistically call turkey fairs, which were, hey, you know what, I've got some empty seats, I'm going to dump some of that cheap inventory in. It just doesn't happen anymore. That used to happen, and, gosh, it's already 2016. I used to think 2009, 2010 was just a few years ago.
Yeah,
it's over half a decade now. When you actually had only 60 to 65% of cabins full on certain time frames, there was some empty middle seats. You would get some last-minute deals with turkey fairs. We just don't see those anymore. Sometimes we do see them throw a few of those prices in for Christmas on off days when they see a little bit of slowness, but very rarely around Thanksgiving.
And Christmas is a longer, broader holiday.
Yeah, you've got a 3-week window instead of basically a long weekend.
Okay, so let's go on to. I'm losing my mind. We're going on to the. See, I'm so excited about our. that I'm
you drew a blank
it.
there on the secret deal zone.
The secret deal zones. So there's actually 2 deal zones within a big fall deal zone. Tell me.
No. So a deal zone, euphemistically called a deal zone, what we used to call dead zones, but having the word dead was not a good idea, apparently.
No.
Apparently people don't type in, let me find a dead zone into Google. A deal zone is around the time frame where you basically have the fewest amount of people flying. The airline reservation systems kick in some of the cheaper prices they have out there with more inventory, and those happen to be the first couple weeks, all the way really up until I think the fourth week in November. So from the 1st of the November all the way up to the fourth week in November. So 3 weeks there, and then a couple weeks in December, the first 2 weeks in December following Thanksgiving. Those are really the cheapest times to fly. Now, there's another one that comes, it's a little bit later in the season, the last 3 weeks in January, but these two are the two cheapest that you can fly in, and that's both domestic and international. And it doesn't matter what city you live in, those will be some of the cheapest tickets you'll find all year. And we've seen the prices drop year over year, which is good news. So you not only get this sort of seasonal slow time drop, you also get the fact that last year, even though it was slow, it's even cheaper this year.
You know, I think there are some people out there going, well, you know, I can only fly in the summer when it's expensive, or at Christmas because that's when the kids' school days are, or their holidays are, and we get it. You know, Lord knows we've been there, but you know,
still there.
Yeah. And well, you know, there will come a time when you've got a little bit more free time and you can take vacation time when you want, and that's when this stuff really, really works out.
I remember 3 weeks ago, I think it was 3 or 4 weeks ago, the Cubs were playing the Rangers at Wrigley Field, one of my favorite places on the planet. I said, let's go for the weekend up to Chicago and watch the game. And I was told, well, you know, the teenager has to do this, that, and this, and don't even ask again. So I'm in there. I'd like to do a little more weekend flying and catching some things. The round trip flight, by the way, on American and Southwest was $79 round trip for that little trip there. So the actual baseball tickets for the first time in history would have been more than the airfare.
You know, there are so many good deals right now. Today I posted a deal from Alaska Airline. It was Baltimore to L.A. It was $109 one way, and it was the same price going back. So do the math. I mean, isn't that cheap for a coast-to-coast flight?
You know, the Holy Grail, sort of historically, and I go back, by the way, to airline deregulation in 1978. The Holy Grail coast to coast is $99 each way. When you get close to that, you're close to the Holy Grail.
Well, and here's hoping we all get close. Now, let's take a customer question, and this is from Barb in Wisconsin. And she says, Rick, is there any way to negotiate an upgrade when you check in at an airport for an international flight? And she adds, I am interested in going from economy to business class. And I'm thinking, right there with you, Barb.
Where do I sign up?
Yeah, and she says, is an upgrade typically for round trip or one way? Is there any way to do this and be smart? So,
well, it's a great question, and I've got this question in the past, and I've traveled a lot. So I'll give you an example of one that you wouldn't know about. So when we go over to Europe sometimes, historically, there's one gate at Dulles Airport in Washington, D.C., and British Airways actually has a lounge up there. So if you actually buy a coach ticket and go up to the lounge, for $300 or $400, they typically upgrade you because it's actually a British Airways flight. Actually, you purchase on American, flown by British Airways. You can purchase an upgrade for $300 or $400. And by the way, if you buy that business class seat ahead of time, it would have been thousands more, for example.
Ooh.
So it is possible to do it. There's some, and that's not so much it was an insider trick. It was one time I was taking that trip in coach. They didn't actually have an American lounge there, so I went to the BA lounge because the BA flight. And went up there because I have the credit card on American that lets me get in there. And I said, "Hey, is there an upgrade?" And they go, "Yeah, sure. It's $400." I'm like, I tried to buy the ticket. It was like $4,000, 4 months ago. So it wasn't like this was something that was publicized. I've been, for example, in the old days with U.S. Airways, when they were flying from, for example, Philadelphia to Edinburgh and a couple places, where they actually had a person coming around with a little placard that said, "Hey, we have upgrades for $300 if you're willing to pay," and they were sort of walking around doing that. That just doesn't happen as much now, and I don't see that happening as much. So as far as upgrades are concerned, you can actually get upgrades with your mileage points. I know a lot of people hoard their mileage points, but they do have upgrades with those things. You can actually redeem for an upgrade to Europe. Those are great deals. Typically, you want to take a look before you upgrade and make sure, you can look at the seat map on many of the sites and make sure not all the seats are taken in business class, because it's not guaranteed. But you can redeem one of those. I did that, I think, it was a couple of years ago. I was able to get my wife and daughter and I upgraded after buying coach tickets to Europe. So it is possible. We should write more articles about that as it occurs, because it's sort of, for me, it's points first. Then you have sort of lounges and asking, and then sometimes you'll actually see on some airlines, especially coming back from Europe, where it's a little less taboo, actually having some roaming people and asking. But the bottom line is you can always ask. Go to the desk and say, hey, I'd like an upgrade, right? Or how much miles is it going to take me to upgrade? Can I instantly redeem my miles right now and do the upgrade? Sometimes they'll do that as well.
Great answer. I always think it's, sometimes I think we get a little shy and we think, oh, you can't ask. I'll sound like such a cheapskate. Go ahead. All they can do is say no.
Oh, no. Asking is always a good idea. And typically, if you ask in the lounge, you get a little more leeway. So if you have a lounge pass or one of those lounge passes that they have per day, or you have, for example, in my case, the American credit card that lets you get in, for example, you certainly can ask, and they're typically fairly accommodating. And if you want to redeem your points, they're really good typically in those lounges, redeem your points.
Let's talk about Eventurist.
Sure.
The latest thing we're going to talk about, the event, is in your neck of the woods, as you put it, the State Fair.
Yeah, no, the State Fair Texas, one of the best events. I mean, look, I'm a little bit of a homer here on this thing, but I've been, I think, I don't know, this will probably be 30 or 40 straight years. I've seen Big Tex burn up. So you'll have to check out Big Tex. He's actually back alive now. I've seen him with all his clothes burned off a few years ago.
I'm not sure we should go there.
Yes, we're not sure exactly how Big Tex caught fire that one year, but it was quite a scene there and afterwards, so it was kind of interesting. But he's bigger and better with the world's biggest overalls on, so you'll have to check him out. And he will speak to you as well, so he speaks really slowly like me. So great. I mean, I particularly like going to sort of the homey stuff, the Jam and Preserve area where they have the bake-offs and the Jam and Preserve bake-offs. Of course, at the State Fair of Texas, if you can fry it, it will be fried. Ice cream, fried margaritas. I've seen almost everything that you can fry, other than rodents, actually get fried there.
Funny you should mention this, because I have just been looking up what is the food at the Texas State Fair, and they have this year fried Jell-O. Now,
there you go.
Two things immediately come to mind. How do you fry Jell-O without it turning into liquid?
That's part of the chemistry stuff that's going on.
The chemistry, yeah, right. Okay, who wants fried Jell-O? But yes, people do.
Yeah, no, I mean, literally, I've had a fried. Well, I've tried a bite of a fried margarita before. It was not that tasty, to be honest, but you can pretty much fry ice cream, and then of course you have the world's famous Fletcher Corny Dogs, which is the real stealer of the show. So I have to have one of those every time. I know I've been on a diet lately, but I'm going to have to sneak one of those in. So anyway, look, it's a fun place to visit. Certain concerts at night, on certain nights they have a concert scheduled. Love to see some of the country and western bands out there at night. You can tell this particular event, I'm a homer. Come to Dallas and you'll probably see me there.
And if anybody's got a question for Rick or an event they'd like to highlight, customer.service@faircompare.com, and
Yeah,
We'll
don't forget to
take care.
download the app on the iTunes, on the App Store for iOS, as well as the Google Play Store. Eventrist, E-V-E-N-T, Urist, U-R-I-S-T. Just type that in, you'll find it. And I think we updated another 7 or 8 events in the last week, so we continue to not only go back and revisit the ones from previous years, but some of the new events keep sliding on. State Fair of Texas wasn't on there last year, but is this year. So check that out. And don't forget, send a customer.service@faircompare.com some more questions, and then hopefully we can get Barb to ask a few questions, maybe use her miles, and she gets a much wider seat and maybe a lie flat seat for her snooze over the pond.
Thanks, Rick.
Thanks.